Good morning, everyone. Mike and Corey here today. I can see in Corey's window. It looks like it's raining. Is it raining?
In a little. We need
And
more.
it's raining here in Ohio today, but it's Friday, and I still love Fridays. I love Fridays, even though I work some on Saturdays and my wife works some on Saturdays. I still love Fridays. Get some things to close out. With today's topics, we're going to talk about inflation report came out a little bit hotter than expected. Reminder on IRA contributions and bracket updates, and I know everybody tunes in for these bracket updates, right? We want to see how people are doing, and then Corey's going to talk about friends through Meta. So, real friends, the people you can go eat lunch with and talk to on the phone, and then the thousands you have of these virtual friends, which is where the world seems to be going into this virtual world. How exciting. So, we're going to talk about a new feature there. So, with that, this is a financial education presentation. You must do your own due diligence on anything that you hear in this presentation. More disclaimer information can be found on ankerstarwealth.com, and the opinions expressed are mine and Corey's alone. So I'm just going to hit real briefly on the inflation news. Headlines are headlines. They make things sound, crazy. Inflation was 2.8, higher than expected. Here's the key. What was expected? 2.7. So it's 0.1% higher. The other part is, month over month, they expected it to be, 0.3, but since it's 0.1 higher, it was 0.4. So, these numbers, I'm always still amazed at how like 0.1% makes such a big difference. And I get it. If it was month after month, that would build up, and that is a big deal. The markets are down a little bit. I mean, like 0.2%, enough that I'm not going to even worry about going into it. But certainly inflation is one of the key things the Fed looks at when they're determining whether to cut the discount rate. They look at inflation and they look at jobs. And the unemployment rate is still extremely low. We are near full employment. So, we'll see where that goes. Next thing I want to hit is, and this is very important because things that have deadlines are important, and especially deadlines from the IRS. If you want to contribute to your Roth or traditional IRA, and I'll explain the difference here, you have to do that this is for 2024. You must do that by April 15th, which is just a couple weeks away. The Roth is pretty easy because you contribute to that. It doesn't really change your tax filing for 2024. So definitely the Roth is a fantastic vehicle. And as it grows, you've already paid taxes on it. We'll do another show sometimes just on how great the Roth IRA is. The trick with the traditional IRA is if you're like on April 14th, yes, I want to contribute an extra $5,000. You get to write it off your taxes for 2024. Well, the other deadline is filing your taxes by April 15th, which you hopefully have already done. So you'd have to file an adjusted return and things like that. So it's not quite as easy. So Roth, highly recommend it. And for all of you parents out there that have a kid that's working, whether they're like my kids working at Wendy's or Subway or wherever that is, if a kid has W-2 income, this is a great time to start a Roth because they're putting it in when they're 16, 17, 18 years old, and it gets to grow for like 40, 50, 60 years, which is an advantage that, many of us don't have. My Roth is not going to grow for 50 more years. So anyways, that's that. Now for the exciting stuff. First, there was some men's basketball last night. I know everybody's sitting on pins and needles. Who's winning this? My wife is still ahead. In fact, she's first by herself at the 99.5th percentile. And I told her this morning when I woke up and saw the score of the games, I said, if there was 200 people in a pool, you'd be in second. There would only be one person ahead of you across all of ESPN. Well, in our pool with only 30, she's in first. And,
Is she a big basketball fan?
Absolutely not. That's what I was going to tell you.
What?
Just to explain to everyone, because you're like, man, how does she know basketball so much better than me? And she doesn't. She doesn't know it at all. She just put in her random picks. It took her 2 minutes. I was there when she filled it out. I said, hey, the 1 seeds, they usually always win. The 16s lose. You know, the lower the number, the better. And she banged out a pool. I don't know whether she'll continue or not, but if Tennessee does, she will. Christina Jimenez moves up with Michigan into the 2 spot, tied for 2. CB, I didn't look to see who that is. And then Corey, our own Corey's in 2 spot, but he has Texas A&M, who has already been eliminated. Right. So Corey,
I was sweating Texas Tech last night.
I see you in the 2 spot, but I'm you got this prediction here. Corey will fade. He will fade out of this. Joel is in 5, and I'm in 6 now. So you know, there's pretty good Ankerstar Wealth advisor representation here. We need to scroll down to find Steve. He is down. He's down in the 15. So anyways, we'll see where this goes. Next Monday, this will be a lot clearer on who's going to win this thing. But anyways,
hey, who plays tonight? Is Tennessee and Auburn tonight? Or...
I have no idea.
I saw we watched the Alabama and the Tech games last night.
And just to make sure, you know, we'll even click on Trisha's bracket here to see who she picked. So she has Auburn beating Michigan.
Yeah.
She has Michigan State over Texas or over somebody. Oh no, that's her Final Four. Oh, that's her Final Four. She has eventually she has Tennessee over Houston. I don't know. She has Tennessee over Kentucky, Houston over Purdue. So whatever. So the other bracket, which is actually to me a little more interesting, it's the financial world. So this is the other half of the bracket. All of you, boy, Trisha's going to be really happy. She didn't even know this, but all of you that took NVIDIA yesterday, NVIDIA was down 2%. Boston Scientific was only down 1.5%. So the number 16 seed, Boston Scientific, advances. McDonald's, that was my pick. They advanced. Costco, Cindy Kelly Joel had Costco beat Intuitive Surgical. Amgen, who nobody has, advanced. Verizon, nobody has, advanced. Walmart, there's one with some people behind it. Are you in Walmart? That seems like
I was in Chevron. It's I don't want to talk about it.
Okay. Next, PepsiCo. Jackie, shout out to Jackie, knocked off Corey, who had Chevron. That was a close one. Or no, she was up. PepsiCo was up. Yeah. You know, all of you that love Meta, and Corey's going to talk about it next, Booking Holding knocked off Meta. Here's a big one that advanced. We finally had a number 1 seed advance. So Amazon has advanced. Cisco, nobody has. Cindy with Johnson & Johnson advances. Jaden, Jackie again, and Scott with Visa. Procter & Gamble. And then Ray, shout out to Ray who knocked me off. I had JP Morgan Chase. Adobe advanced. Only Steve has Salesforce.
Wow.
And number 2 seed Google goes down, who a lot of people had, to Danaher. So this will be much more interesting. Now, next week, the next round where we actually score this, because we're only looking at 1 day. It'll be March 31st. I think that's Monday. I'll look at the end of day on Monday, and I'll figure out who advances. And, you know, this is obviously just for fun. And just a reminder, because I had some people come out and they said, hey, I really didn't look at the earnings for my company. I didn't look at news coming out. It's a dart throw. I mean, when you're looking at 1 day of stock performance, you really can't predict that. This is really just meant for fun. If we were looking at 3 weeks, like if we were looking at which stock did the best over a 3-week period, there'd be a lot more strategy to this. You'd look like, hey, what earnings calls are coming out, things like that. But on a 1 day basis, you know, honestly, would I ever pick, and I'm going to go Apple versus Nextera, you know, Nextera beat Apple. Would I ever say Nextera is a more solid investment than Apple? Would I ever? Well, I can't say never, but certainly in the last 10 years, I'm sticking with Apple, and probably for the next 10 years. So, but on 1 day, next era one. So fun stuff. Next week, we'll see where this updates. We'll do updates on brackets. I cheer for your teams over the weekend because my team, Ohio State, is already not in the NCAA tournament. So with that, friends, Corey, according to LinkedIn and Facebook, I have thousands of friends. I have thousands of friends. Now, would I recognize their face if they walk up to me? Maybe not. But go ahead, talk to us about Facebook, Meta, and friends.
Yeah, Meta we have obviously in a few different models throughout the book, things like that. Good company. I saw this article, it caught my eye. Meta debuts Friends tab. Mark Zuckerberg pushes throwback to OG Facebook. Now, Mike, I went and tested this, so I pulled up the app. It's sure enough, it's down there. You got your Friends tab, and it's sort of a mix of posts and stories, but it is just your friends. I couldn't remember. I don't know if there's any ads mixed in. I'm sure there are, but what do you remember about OG Facebook? Or I guess when did you
When,
make a Facebook?
well, Facebook came out, I think 2007 is when Facebook first came out. And my initial reaction to Facebook was this will sound so bad. It was like that sounds like something someone would use to contact their old boyfriends and girlfriends in high school. That's what was my first impression of it. So
I
that
was in
I was
high school, so
oh
what would
yeah.
that?
So I don't even know,
The middle
Corey.
school?
You were on something else. I don't even know. But that was my reaction to it. I know that Steve made a good call to invest in Facebook relatively early, and I know that my accounts were with Steve, and when he put me in Facebook, he managed my account at that point. I closed my eyes and I said, "Oh, I can't believe I'm investing in Facebook." Like I'm like this to me is not a useful product. Once it tripled, I was good with it. I think he put it in at $75. Once it hit 225, and I still held it. I was like, oh, I love Facebook. I was like, I just made more money than I ever would expect it on it. And that's sometimes when you go for a growing thesis, you would do that. So, anyways, that's I, you know, I use Facebook now. I'm on there. I've got friends. So I do see a use for it now, and I love the ability that brings pictures from my kids like 10 years ago. It's like, oh, here's your kids 10 years ago, and here's this 8 years ago. I love that. It's like electronic scrapbooking.
Yeah, man, you summed it up pretty good. I remember, or I every once in a while it'll throw up an old post that you made, 10, 15 years ago, and sometimes you're like, "Oh my gosh, why why did I post that? What's going on?" But that's kind of how OG Facebook was. It was a little bit more like a Twitter type thing. You weren't really putting pictures with your posts. You were just sharing some thoughts or sharing something that was going on with you. They called them status updates. I don't know if you remember that. And
Yeah.
he mentions that here. But I remember you'd hop on, you'd scroll for a few minutes when scrolling was brand new. Now people do, what is it called? Like mindless scrolling or something, some zombie scrolling. But this was before all that. This was, you just hop on, you'd scroll for a little bit, and then you'd get to the bottom. Do you remember?
Oh
And
yeah. There's no
you'd run
bottom
out.
anymore. There's no bottom
Yeah, there's
anymore.
no bottom. It's a bottomless pit, but you'd get to the bottom, and it was like, okay, I'm done for the day, and I'll come back another day. But now, yeah, it's a bottomless pit, and so I don't know. Will this Friends be a bottomless pit or not? We'll see. I know they've had issues with users have generated less and less content over time, so they start having to mix in AI and other content to make
Mm.
up for the users not generating content. But we'll see what happens.
Well,
Anyway,
I,
just
I,
interesting.
I think it kind of went like Facebook. I call this Facebook 1.0. Facebook 1.0 was this is what I ate for breakfast. This is like, I mean, it was like, I was kind of like, what are we sharing here, And then Facebook 2.0 went down a dark political viewpoint. It was just politics, 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 and now Facebook, whatever it is, 3.0,
With
4.0 now,
AI.
yeah, it's much more they're going to feed you what you're interested in. And, I always say, hey, a couple things. Here's a tip for you. If people are posting things that you don't want to see, there's a snooze 30. So you don't have to unfriend the person. There's no way to dislike what they post. You just go snooze 30. They don't even know about it. You can do that to me. You can test it on mine. I don't care. It's not a big deal. But you pick snooze 30. So if people are making radical posts, I just go snooze 30 and I don't see anything from them for 30 days. They're in the penalty box, I guess, that they don't know. So, you know, Facebook's, Meta is a very good company going forward. Remember, they make money by having eyeballs on ads. That's how they make money. They don't charge you to use their service because you out there that have a Meta account like me are the service. So advertisers pay for you to see their ads, and that's how we make money as owners of Facebook. So we're turning the tables and we actually own them.
That's all I
So
got.
if anyone sees this and you're like, hey, like I feel like I know Mike and Corey because they see us on this video, feel free to send me a Facebook friend request. I will accept it, and you can see more. So with that, have a good one, everyone. Thanks all. Bye.